A long while ago, perhaps as much as 2,000 years, there was a rich man who had a wife of whom he was very fond, but they had no children. Now in the garden before the house where they lived there stood a juniper tree, and one winter's day, as the lady was standing under the juniper tree paring an apple, she cut her finger, and the drops of blood trickled down upon the snow. "Ah," said she, sighing deeply and looking down upon the blood, "how happy should I be if I had a little child as white as snow and as red as blood." As she was saying this, she grew quite cheerful and was sure her wish could be fulfilled. And after a little time after the snow had gone away, and soon afterwards the fields began to look green. Next the spring came, and the meadows were dressed with flowers. The trees put forth their green leaves, and the young branches shed their blossoms upon the ground, and the little birds sang at the groves. Then came summer, and the sweet-smelling flowers of the juniper tree began to unfold, and the lady's heart leaped within her, and she fell to her knees with joy. But when autumn drew near, the fruit was thick upon the trees. Then the lady plucked the red berries from the juniper tree, and looked sad and sorrowful, and called her husband to her, and said, "If I die, bury me under the juniper tree." Not long after this, a pretty little child was born. It was, as the lady wished, as red as blood and as white as snow. And as soon as she had looked upon it, joy overcame her, and she fainted away and died. Then her husband buried her under the juniper tree, and wept and mourned over her. And after a little while he grew better, and at length dried up his tears and married another wife. Time passed on, and he had a daughter born, but the child of his first wife, that was as red as blood and as white as snow, was a little boy. The mother loved her daughter very much, but hated the little boy, and bethought herself how she might get her husband's money for her own child. So she used the poor fellow very harshly, and was always pushing him about from one corner of the house to another, thumping him once and thumping him one while, pinching him the other, so that he was forever in fear of her, and when he came home from school could never find a place in the house to play in. Now it happened that once, when the mother was going into the storeroom, the little girl came up to her and said, "Mother, may I have an apple?" "Yes, my dear," said she, and she gave her a nice rosy apple out of the chest. Now you must know that this chest had a very thick heavy lid with a great sharp iron lock upon it. "Mother," said the little girl, "pray give me one for my little brother too." Her mother did not much like this, however she said, "Yes, my child, when he comes home from school you shall have one too." And as she was speaking, she looked out of the window and saw the little boy coming, so she took the apple from her daughter, threw it back in the chest, and shut the lid, and telling her that she should have it again when her brother came home. When the little boy came to the door, this wicked woman said to him with a kind voice, "Come in, my dear, and I will give you an apple." "How kind you are, mother," said the little boy. "I should like to have an apple very much." "Well, come with me then," said she. So she took him into the storeroom and lifted up the cover of the chest and said, "There, take one out yourself." And as soon as the little boy stooped down to reach one of the apples out of the chest, bang! She let the lid fall so hard that his little head fell off amongst the apples. When she found what she had done, she was very much frightened, and did not know how she should get the blame off her shoulders. However, she went to the bedroom, took a white handkerchief out of the door, then fitted the little boy's head upon his neck, and tied the handkerchief around it, so that no one could see what had happened, and seated him in a stool before the door with an apple in his hand. Soon after, Marjorie came into the kitchen to her mother, who was standing by the fire, and stirring about some hot water in a pot. "Mother," said Marjorie, "my brother is sitting before the door with an apple in his hand. I asked him to give it to me, but he did not say a word and looked so pale that I was quite frightened." "Nonsense," said her mother. "Go back again, and if he won't answer you, give him a good box on the ear." Marjorie went back and said, "Brother, give me that apple." But he answered not a word, so she gave him a box on the ear, and immediately his head fell off. At this, you may be sure she was sadly frightened and ran screaming out to her mother that she had knocked off his brother's head, and cried as if her heart would break. "Oh, Marjorie," said her mother, "what have you been doing? However, what is done cannot be undone, so we better put him out of the way and say nothing to anyone about it." When the father came home for dinner, he said, "Where is my little boy?" And his wife said nothing, but put a large dish of black soup upon the table, and Marjorie wept bitterly all the time and could not hold up her head. And the father asked after his little boy again. "Oh," said his wife, "I should think he has gone to his uncle's." "What business could he have to go away without bidding me good-bye?" said his father. "I know he wished very much to go," said the woman, "and begged me to let him stay there some time. He will be well taken care of there." "Ah," said the father, "I don't like that. He ought not to have gone away without wishing me good-bye." And with that he began to eat, but he seemed still sorrowful about his son, and said, "Marjorie, what do you cry for? Your brother will come back again, I hope." But Marjorie by and by slipped out of the room and went to her drawers and took her best silk handkerchief out of them, and tying it round her little brother's bones, carried them out of the house, weeping bitterly all the while, and laid them under the juniper tree. And as soon as she had done this, her heart felt lighter, and she left off crying. Then the juniper tree began to move itself backwards and forwards, and to stretch its branches out one from another, and then bringing them together again, just like a little person clapping their hands for joy. And after this a kind of cloud came over from the tree, and in the middle of the cloud was a burning fire, and out of the fire came a pretty bird that flew away into the air singing merrily. And as soon as the bird was gone, the handkerchief and the little boy were gone too. The tree looked just as it had before, but Marjorie felt quite happy and joyful within herself, just as if she had known that her brother had been alive again, and went to the house and ate her dinner. But the bird flew away and perched upon the roof of a goldsmith's house and sang, "My mother slew her little son, my father thought me lost and gone, but pretty Marjorie pitied me and laid me under the juniper tree, and now I rove so merrily as over hills and dales I fly. Oh, what a fine bird am I!" The goldsmith was sitting in his shop finishing a gold chain, and when he heard the bird singing on the housetop, he started up so suddenly that one of his shoes slipped off. However, without stopping to put it on again, he ran out into the tree with his apron on, holding his pincers in one hand and the gold chain in the other. And when he saw the bird sitting on the rooftop with the sun shining on his bright feathers, he said, "How sweetly you sing, my pretty bird. Pray sing that song again." "No," said the bird, "I can't sing twice for nothing. If you give me that gold chain, I'll try what I can do." "There," said the goldsmith, "take the chain, only pray sing that song again." So the bird flew down, taking the chain in its right claw, perching a little nearer to the goldsmith, and sang, "My mother slew her little son, my father thought me lost and gone, but pretty Marjorie pitied me and laid me under the juniper tree, and now I rove so merrily as over hills and dales I fly. Oh, what a fine bird am I!" After that the bird flew away to a shoemaker's, and sitting upon the roof of the house, sang the same song as it had done before. When the shoemaker heard the song, he ran to the door with his coat and looked up to the top of the house, but he was obliged to hold his hand before his eyes, because the sun shone so brightly. "Bird," said he, "how sweetly you sing." Then he called into the house, "Wife, wife, come out here and see what a pretty bird is singing on the top of our house." And he called out to his children and workmen, and they all ran out and stood gazing at the bird with its beautiful red and green feathers and bright golden ring around its neck, and eyes which glittered like the stars. "Oh, bird," said the shoemaker, "pray sing that song again." "No," said the bird, "I cannot sing twice for nothing. You must give me something if I do." "Wife," said the shoemaker, "run upstairs to the workshop and bring me the best pair of new red shoes that you can find." So his wife ran and fetched them. "Here, my pretty bird," said the shoemaker, take these shoes, but pray, sing that song again." The bird came down, and taking the shoes in his left claw, flew up again to the housetop and sang, "My mother slew her little son, my father thought me lost and gone. But pretty Marjorie pitied me and laid me under the juniper tree. Now I rove so merrily as over hills and dales I fly, and what a fine bird am I." And when he had done singing, he flew away, holding the shoes in one claw and the chain in the other. And he flew a long way off, till at last he came to a mill. The mill was going clipper, 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 clapper. And in the mill were 20 millers, who were all hard at work, hewing a millstone. And the millers hewed, hick hack, hick hack. And the mill went on, clipper, clapper, clipper, clapper. So, as the bird perched on the linden tree close by the mill and began its song, "My mother slew her little son, my father thought me lost and gone." Here 2 of the millers left off their work and listened. But pretty Marjorie pitied me and laid me under the juniper tree. Now all of the millers but one looked up and left their work. And now I rove so merrily, over hills and dales I fly, oh what a fine bird am I. Just as the song was ended, and the last miller heard of it, and started up and said, "Oh bird, how sweetly you sing, do let me hear that whole song, pray sing it again." "No," said the bird, "I cannot sing twice for nothing. Give me that millstone and I'll sing again." "Why," said the man, "the millstone does not belong to me. If it were all mine, you should have it and welcome." "Come," said the other millers, "if you will only sing that song again, you shall have the millstone." Then the bird came down from the tree, and the 20 millers fetched long poles and worked and worked, heave ho, heave ho, till at last they raised the millstone on its side, and then the bird put its head through the hole in the middle of it, and flew away to the linden tree and sang the same song as it had done before. When he had done, he spread his wings, and with the chain in one claw, the shoes in the other, and the millstone about his neck, he flew away to his father's house. Now it happened that his father and mother and Marjorie were sitting together at dinner. His father was saying, "How light and cheerful I am!" But his mother said, "Oh, I am so heavy and so sad. I feel just as if a great storm was coming on." And Marjorie said nothing, but sat and cried. Just then the bird came flying along and perched on the top of the house. "Bless me," said the father, "how cheerful I am. I feel as if I were about to see an old friend again." "Alas," said the mother, "I am so sad, and my teeth chatter so, and it seems as if all the blood is on fire in my veins." She tore open her gown to cool herself, and Marjorie sat by herself in a corner with the plate in her lap before her, wept so bitterly that she cried her plate quite full of tears. And the bird flew to the top of the juniper tree and sang, "My mother slew her little son." Then the mother held her ears in her hands and shut her eyes closed, that she might neither see nor hear, but there was a sound in her ears like a frightful storm, and her eyes burned and glared like lightning. "My father thought me lost and gone." "Oh, wife," said the father, "what a beautiful bird that is, and how finely he sings, and his feathers glitter in the sun like so many spangles. But pretty Marjorie pitied me, and laid me under the juniper tree." At this, Marjorie lifted up her head and sobbed sadly, and her father said, "I must go out and look at that bird a little nearer." "Oh, don't leave me alone," said his wife. "I just feel as if the house is burning." However, he would go out to look at the bird, and it went on singing, "But now I rove so merrily, as over hills and dales I fly, oh, what a fine bird am I." As soon as the bird had done singing, he let fall the golden chain upon his father's neck, and it fitted so nicely he went back into the house and said, "Look here, what a beautiful chain the bird has given me. Only see how grand it is." But his wife was so frightened that she fell all along the floor, so that her cap flew off, and she lay as if she were dead. And when the bird began singing again, Marjorie said, "I must go out and see whether that bird has something or not to give me." And just as she was going out the door, the bird let the red shoes fall before her. When she had put on the shoes, all at once she became quite light and happy, and she jumped into the house and said, I was so heavy and sad when I went out, and now I am happy. See what fine shoes the bird has given me." Then the mother said, "Well, if the world shall fall to pieces, I must go out and try whether I should be better in the air." And as she was going out, the bird let the millstone fall upon her head and crushed her to pieces. The father and Marjorie, hearing the noise, ran out and saw nothing but smoke and fire and flame rising up from the place. When this was gone and past, there stood the little boy beside them, and he took his father and Marjorie by the hand, and they went into the house and ate their dinner together very happily. The end. I love you.